let's help future you, right? Today what I want to do is I want to show you 4 different PowerApps features that have come out very recently. They're all still in preview, which usually is one of those things where we're probably not ready to use them. But I think they're things that you need to start using today, even if it's just in your testing and learning time, so that you can start to understand where things are headed. Now, full disclosure, 3 of them use Dataverse. So you're like, well, I don't use Dataverse, so what do I care? I'm going to talk about why you should care about that. 2 of them are around model-driven apps. Shane, you're a Canvas app guy. You don't care about model-driven apps. That's fair, but I think they're going to come to Canvas apps, so I want to be prepared. One of them is in Copilot Studio, and it looks like one, you're like, oh, that's just one of those fancy things. In reality, it's one of the keys to being successful. So that's what we want to do. We want to go look at these 4 features, make sure that you understand what they are, how to use them, and more importantly, or most importantly, why I want you to be using them now to start thinking about future you and what's going on. All right, let's jump over to my desktop and take a look. Straight out of the gate here, let's start in Dataverse. Now, Dataverse is one of those things where you're like, I don't have premium licensing. I can't use Dataverse. Look, even if you can't use it to build your production apps today, because you're still building on SharePoint, hopefully not Excel, hopefully SharePoint at least, but you're still like, I can't use it. You have got to find an environment, a place where you can go in and start to poke the bear, right? Dataverse is the foundation of the Power Platform. Power Platform is Microsoft's foundation for building tools going through this AI new first world. Dataverse is very, very important. So if you haven't learned Dataverse yet, you've got to jump in there and you've got to start embracing Dataverse as much as possible, right? Okay, so the thing I want to show you over here that I found super interesting that's very new is if we go here to columns and we go in and say, hey, I want to create a new column, there is a new data type called prompt. What a prompt column is like, if you've ever done like in SharePoint calculated column, where when you upload a record, it takes some of the different fields, does some math, does some combination, and then calculates a field and output. So in Dataverse, right? Dataverse, we also have formula columns, which are very much like calculated columns. They use PowerFX formulas though. But this idea of a prompt column, what makes it different is we're going to do that same, I need to compute an outcome, but instead of computing that column from formulas, we're going to use an AI prompt. We're going to let a large language model think about that. So if we jump down here in our prompt preview, say add a new prompt, it is going to open up an interface. Now here's another thing to note, right? This interface, this is the same AI prompt interface now we have with Dataverse Prompt Columns. We have as AI prompts in PowerApps and Power Automate. We have it in Copilot Studio as AI prompts. Like there's 4 or 5 different places that Microsoft exposes this column or this same exact interface to us. So investing here is helping you learn a bunch of different places in the Power Platform. I love them, right? This is one of the best decisions they made. They keep using, anytime they need to do a prompt inside the Power Platform, they're using this UI. So getting familiar with how it works, understanding like, hey, why are there different models here? Look, there's GPT-5 already. Oh, I can add my own. Oh, how's that work? I don't know. We're not going to talk about that today, but there's a lot of cool stuff in here. What I want to do though, is we're going to take this thing. I think there's a little button up here somewhere to clear it, clear the prompt. Look at that. We can now write our own instructions. And what's really neat about that is we might say something like, create me a quick update about this person, right? So we'll try something like, create a quick update about the new employee that has been added. The update will be a body of a Teams chat message. Make sure to include the following fields in the update. And I stopped right there because I want you to see how this works now. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the / and then it's like, hey, look, here is the different fields. So practice employees, right? That's the table. Hit the /. And so look, there's the full name field. So maybe we want to include their full name, their favorite color. We probably don't want to include their hourly wage. That would be awkward. I think what else we got in there? Hire date, sure. It doesn't matter, right? But so we say add. And so look, that dynamically places those in there. So it's saying, hey, make sure you use these inputs. And so you know what? Let's just stop right there and see what happens. So what we can do is we can now just hit test. And so there you go. Hello team, please join me in welcoming. I won't read it all to you, but you can see that all the information we expected, name, hire date, and favorite color are all in there. So, right, that's a very simple example, but I want you to see that, right? Because when you're learning this stuff and figuring it out, always start with something new, right? Create a strong foundation to make future you smarter. But now what we could do is start to think about, well, maybe we want to say, hey, if their favorite color is red, then write a joke about red. Or maybe we want to say, if their hire date was more than a week ago, then, change the message to be this. We could kind of tailor the message around, right? Anything that you could do with a large language model. So like Copilot, ChatGPT, Gemini, any of those, you can do here because you're just passing those instructions, but they're getting ran programmatically for you. You could also do more complicated calculations. Maybe you have in this table their birth date and you wanted to figure out what their sign is, right? Like, are they a Virgo or Scorpion or whatever all those crazy things are. I don't know. I'm not into those, but you get the idea. We could have it think and do things that, yes, we probably could have done in the past with a flow, with a bunch of if statements and stuff like that. But here we can just take advantage of an AI prompt to generate this. So then now every time a record, right, I guess we need to hit save. Now if we give this column something like, Teams message, like so, you can see down here, it's there. And then we say save. And so now when a record gets added, this will just automatically get computed. And who knows what we're using it for, right? Like, what do you think about with this? Like, this is one that, you might not immediately have an idea, but I think it's important to put in the back of your mind. We can now start to, ingest data and in real time transform that. So what do you think about this one? Leave me a comment below. I'd love to hear, what are your use cases for putting this in effect, right? It'll help me. It'll help the other people reading this, to kind of look through there and see the different ideas. But there's a lot of neat stuff that we can do that maybe it's calculation based. Maybe it's, creating these messages. Maybe it's some type of logic check. Maybe you take that and you look at maybe their department title and their, hourly wage and their department. Like, hey, does this all make sense? If it does, then just flag this as, AI verified is true, right? Like the outcome doesn't have to be text. It could be numbers. It could be Boolean information, so we could add some type of, checking or interface for that. There's so much you unlock when you realize that you have cool little columns like this. And I think you're just going to continue to see things like this. So that's our first one. Next up, I want to switch here to model-driven apps, and I want to look at the form filler. Now, one of the things that you're going to note in this, current year of lots of new things rolling into AI, right? A lot of things, a lot of interesting stuff like the one I'm about to show you is showing up inside of model-driven apps first. And you're like, well, I don't care about model-driven apps, right? I don't have model-driven apps. That's fine. But when we walk through this one, like try to step away a little bit from the, it's only Dataverse, I don't care, and just start to think, could they easily apply this to be just a control in our Canvas apps? Like, I feel like they could, right? The thing is, model-driven apps, because they only have the one data source and they don't have all the wild customizations that we do in Canvas apps, when they're developing new ideas, it's really easy, or it's easiest, I should say, to put it into a model-driven app versus a Canvas app, because Canvas apps have so many different, flexibility. So that to me is why they like to put things here first. But I don't just discount them. I kind of always assume this is a pathway to getting to our Canvas apps. Now, to be fair, they've never said that, but I like to, look at the glass half full. So anyway, let's look at this feature. So if we go to new, so over in the top right, we have Form Assist. If you're not seeing this, it is possible for administrators to turn all this off, but hopefully you've got this available to you. And so if we have Form Assist, we kind of get this little extra bar here. Now, this is one of those features when they first rolled out, I was like, who cares, right? Like it only kind of half worked. It wasn't super interesting. And, my Dataverse guy's like, nah, I hate it. And so I just dismissed it. Bad Shane, right? So as preparing for a live session I did in Atlanta last week, I kind of went and looked at this and I was like, this is really cool. This works really well. So what it does, right, is you can come in here. And so we got a form of information that is needed. And so say that we've got that information already and we're just going to copy and paste it in. Well, what I could do, let me switch over to my notepad, is like here in Notepad, you can see I've got, just the information, right? I got to get that in that form. So I could copy and paste each field one at a time, or I could just grab this, right? Control C, go over here and say, hey, do a smart paste. So take whatever's in my clipboard and figure it out. So if we paste this in, it is going to look at that data and it's going to fill out. And so in this case, it got full name, title, hire date. It did not hit his favorite color. Now, if we switch back over, I did have the favorite color in here. It missed, right? But it's not tagged, so it had to kind of infer for itself. I can tell you that I've practiced this probably 20 times, and that's the first time it hasn't done favorite color. Like, let's just try again. Let's just see if it does favorite color on the second try. All right, so hit smart paste again. All right, well, it does not believe that Hunter's favorite color is green. That's okay, right? It is still in preview. And so this is one of those places that like where you could be like, well, look, it doesn't work, Shane. Why would I care? Right? It's interesting. It still did 75% of the work for me, right? So it did have value, right? Don't get hung up on the things it doesn't do. Get hung up on the things it does do, right? Find the good in AI is kind of one of my new generic messages. Don't focus on it. It missed this field in my demo. And like I said, it worked all morning. That's okay. Now you also might say, well, Shane, it also didn't get his department. So department's a lookup field, right? And if we go up here, I believe if we say field info, it'll tell you that what fields aren't supported, right? So this one's an image field and this one's a lookup. So they weren't even supported to begin with. So that's why those wouldn't be covered. Okay. Now it can be smarter. Let's do, let's save and close this one. Oh, I didn't actually accept it. So even though we did this and it auto-populated, in order to use them, you have to accept the suggestions. We can either go through here and accept them one at a time, or we can go up here and say accept multiple. Okay. Now that I've accepted the changes, and that's important to understand, like if it's getting it wrong, you can just not use its output. So we'll say save and close. Let's do new again. Okay, so that one was pretty simple, right? Boring, I know. So let's grab something different. Hang on. All right, so over here, I used my friend AI to quickly write a fake email announcing that Jennifer had joined the company. In there is her favorite color, is her department, her title, her name. Interestingly enough as well, right? Notice that it is dated August 8th, and somewhere in here, it says, her first date is today. So notice that her hire date is disconnected from this, right? It doesn't say hire date is August 8th. It just says, hey, this letter is dated August 8th and her first day is today, right? So let's try this one out, see what it does. Copy that, switch back over here. And so we'll just do the smart paste again. Wow, right? Look, it got the hire date, right? Like that was my big curveball for it. So this to me, very interesting. You want to see a little bit different, right? Let's just do another new, continue anyway. So far we've just kind of pasted text in. You can use files. What I did earlier today didn't think it would work, but works. Watch this. Switch back over. I'm going to use my snipping tool, right here. We'll click on this and we're going to grab a screenshot of this whole thing, right? So we're going to grab an image of the email because sometimes that's easier for me, right? And so it's in my clipboard. And if we go over here and same thing, if we paste that in, it is still able to extract out an image from my clipboard. I think that is super interesting, right? Like that's pretty cool. If you had it as a file, maybe it's a PDF or something like that, we can go here and hit the little upload interface. And so we could have pulled that in as well. So this feature, really, really fun, really interesting. I can also tell you they're very actively working on it. I got something new for it that I can't show you yet. So it is getting even better really soon. So definitely be checking this one out if you haven't. And once again, they have never once said it's going to Canvas apps, but man, in my head, like, why not? Why couldn't this just be, once they get it all the mechanics working, couldn't it be a control that looked at a form? There's also a bunch more, like we're not trying to redo this whole thing, but it also learns from like your usage patterns of the forms and stuff. So it's a lot smarter than I'm giving credit for. I just want you to see it. If you get interested in it, go deep dive into it because I think this one's really cool. Okay, so that's number 2. All right, so number 3 is over here on the left. It is also in model-driven apps right now. And this is this new thing called Generative Pages. So I'm gonna click on Fancy Grid, get rid of my stuff there. So this is something that I built in 20 to 30 minutes doing something called vibe coding, right? If you ever go on the internet, like there's crazy people that are like, oh yeah, I vibe coded, an entire replacement for Excel in 15 minutes. People get a little overzealous, right? Like I am not a hardcore vibe coding is going to, let me replace everything. It's not there today, but what we're seeing is that there are the capabilities to start building things like this all from words, right? So this is a new type of page. It's called a generative page in model-driven apps. And you can see in here that, my little page, right? I have a edit interface. Ooh. If I go up here and add employee, I get a little pop-up. I can upload their photo. do all this. It's got a shiny interface on it because I told it to make it really fancy and cool, right? And it's then going to save the data straight back into my Dataverse table. So the way that I built this, let's switch tabs. So here on the app screen, right, I want you just to see, like, I'm gonna go into my model-driven app and hit edit. And we want to go look at this for two reasons, right? The first one is I want you to see what's possible today. And then secondly, it's gonna feel a little awkward. I want you to think about that for a minute, right? So let's just go build our own. So we're gonna go over here, we're gonna say add a page, and we're gonna say describe a page. So when I do this, it gives us a new interface. And if you've never seen a model-driven apps today, we can do custom pages, which is a Canvas app bolted in there. But the idea of this is not a Canvas app bolted in. This is going to be a new type of page. It is actually written in a language called React, right? So PowerApps uses TypeScript and other languages, right? So the idea that it's going to build this thing and use React is a whole new engine, which really makes me start to think about, like, hey, how are model-driven and Canvas apps changing if all of a sudden their preferred tool is to build a React app? Okay, so it finished loading, and so you can see that they dropped me into a whole new UI, right? But this is very similar to the one that we've used in like Canvas apps before to say, create me something, right? It looks very similar to that. Notice here though, we can even change our model. So if you want to use GPT-5, I haven't used GPT-5, so let's close on, let's be brave. We can pull in data. So think about, like, maybe I want to bring in screenshots or design docs or requirements docs. I can pull in information, right? So add data, right? So there's the attach the image, or add a table. So if we wanted to build and have it use a table, interact with a table like the one I showed you a minute ago, we would add that in. So we're gonna skip all that because, right, there's a whole bunch of people who have done videos on these already. I just want you guys to, I want to talk about them from a future you, a learning perspective, more than try and whiz bang wow you on all the magical things it can do. It can do magical things, but that's not the point, right? So let's try something like this. Create a page to let users add tasks, show them in a gallery, and then use drag and drop to reorder them. So we're going to hit generate. So now it's going to think about my command, right? It's going to say, all right, if I wanted to do that, what are the actual business requirements? So over here on the left, you can actually see it break it into actionable requirements, and it built it faster than I could even walk you through it. That's all right, we'll show you in a second. But it walks through all the requirements, and then it generates all the code. So before we look at the code, let's just go here, let's just see if it works, right? So we'll add a task, and we'll say, eat lunch because I'm hungry. I am hungry, it is lunchtime. Well, so we'll say save, I misspelled hungry, it doesn't matter, right? We'll add a task, and then we'll say, take a nap because my belly's full, save that one. And then one more just so we can kind of mess with them, add task, take out the trash, it stinks, okay? So we have an interface for adding them. Can I grab it and drag and drop it? Look at that, I can move these things around a little bit. So there you go, right? Now, what's really cool about this is I think about, like, in Canvas apps, I could have built everything except for that drag and drop today, right? So kind of crazy. Now, if we go and look at code, it wrote, I don't know, let's just scroll to the bottom, 188 lines of React code to do this. Now, you can't edit the code today, right? I don't think it's a far stretch to think at some point they'll let me directly edit the code, but I can see the code. I can see what it's doing. I don't know React. I can guess what some of this does. I could use a large language model to explain it to me if I wanted. But this is interesting. This is a whole new way of generating a page, right? And now maybe we noticed, well, it didn't save it, right? Because we didn't build an ability to save or anything. But so maybe one of the things we want to do is be able to edit a task after they add it, because we saw I made the typo. So we could go over here and we would just say, that is great. Would you have the ability to edit a task after it has been saved? And we'll hit go. And so now what it's going to do is it is going to take the code that was there, and then it's going to, you can kind of see the thoughts again, hopefully, all these things that it's got going on. And then it is going to hopefully do that. So let's try it again. So we'll add a task, eat lunch because I'm hungry, right? We'll say save, and then we can hit the edit pencil. Oh, look, now we have an interface for actually updating that. So this is what they call vibe coding, right? We go over here, we gave it some ideas, and then we kind of work our way through it. You could very easily add the data, right? So we go up here, data sources. And so we would then be able to choose in our data sources if we had added any, right? We didn't do that at the beginning. So we probably want to go back and, add those in. But you get the idea. We can start to really build fully functional things just with our words that are generating entire pages with pop-ups and nice design, editable grids, drag and drop, file uploads, all of those things that, yes, we might know how to do most of today, especially like if we go back over to Canvas apps, but in hundreds of lines of React code, it's just like, here you go, very, very quickly. Right? Like, this is the thing when I think about future me, like I have to ask myself, like, are we going to stop building Canvas apps one day because we're going to use this to do it? I don't know, maybe. Right? So this is where a tool like this, where I'm not using it today, like it doesn't, there's a lot of, it's a preview, it's an early preview. There's a lot of things missing where I wouldn't really want to try to roll this in production yet. Hopefully I don't get in trouble for saying that, but I wouldn't put it in production yet. Because I don't think it works with solutions very well, or if at all. There's reasons not to use it, so it's real easy to find the negative. Oh, it doesn't do that. Ha ha ha. Find the good in AI. It generated a page with drag and drop, adding and editing and rearranging in a matter of seconds. I want to start wrapping my head around what this tool can and can't do. I want to start understanding, maybe I'm not going to learn React. I don't think there's a reason to learn it, but being able to kind of get used to looking at it, to be, comfortable with it, to be like, all right, so apparently there's some type of theme in here. Like, how's that all working? What if I ask it, football season is coming. Can you give the page a football look and feel using orange and black as the primary colors? And so, you know what? It's probably it should leave all the functionality alone and then jump in here and, spit this stuff out. I can also tell you, like, it used to take a lot longer. It used to write a lot more lines of code, but boom, it has kind of done it already. Watch football, yay! And then we save, and, it's all still working, right? Our edit's all there. Interesting. So what do you think of this? Like, what do you, like, it's real easy to be scared of this, but I don't want you to be scared of it. I want you to embrace it. I want you to be the best at your company at doing this type of thing, vibe coding, right? Start wrapping your head around, what this can and can't do. Get out in front of it is my suggestion. All right, so that's number 3. For number 4, I want to switch gears quite a bit, and I want to jump over to Copilot Studio. And so over in Copilot Studio, we have this new ability where agents can call agents. So when I'm thinking about future you, if current you has not used Copilot Studio at all, you are behind. You are putting future you in trouble, right? We don't want that. I need you to be using this today, right? And if you've not built any of this, I'll put a link up there on the screen. I have a bunch of videos to kind of get you started. Me and Microsoft work together to create like a 5-hour video course that is targeted at PowerApps and Power Automate people just like you. So I'll give you a link to that so you can go check that out. It's all free. It's all just on YouTube. I'll get you a link. Anyway, the big thing that changed very recently is that we now have this ability over here for an agent to add an agent. Okay, now this is one of those things that's really easy to be like, well, agents calling agents, child agents, that sounds complicated. It's quite the opposite, right? If we say add an agent, we have 3 different ways we can add an agent. We can create a child agent. This would be an agent that only exists inside of this particular agent. We can call a full-blown Copilot Studio parent agent, or another big agent, and have the 2 agents work together. Or if you're over in Microsoft Fabric and you've built a data agent to talk about your data there, you can pull that in. These 2, fine. I don't get super excited about them. This one I get really excited for. And the reason for that is it's going to lower the complexity, right? Adding child agents is not making your agents harder. It is making them easier. And actually, I'll switch over to a different agent. All right, so this is the agent that in that class I was talking to you about a minute ago, I show you how to build. And if you look down here at the bottom, right, under instructions, there are 6 different distinct things that this agent needs to do. And I'm not exaggerating. It took me about a month to write these instructions so that they were 100% predictable, consistent, and behaved all the time. The reason it took me so long was because, they're all doing very similar things. And so I'd be like, get the description. And get the description was like in 3 of the steps. And so the agent would get confused, like what description was it trying to get? And so it would keep jumping out of order and, wrapping itself around the axle. Not because the agent was lacking, but because my instructions were confusing, right? They overlapped way too much. So what I'm currently working on, and I'll probably turn into a video once I get done, is instead of this having 6 very complicated instructions that need to be tailored just perfectly, imagine instead I would go here to agents and I'm going to create 6 child agents, one for each one of those steps. The reason I'm going to do that then is this main agent then will just say, hey, call the agent to get the info. And then inside the get the info agent will be all the complexity around getting those info, but it's one set of tasks, so they can't overlap each other. It's just one goal. And then it'll say, okay, here's all that. And then it'll take the output from that and say, hey, agent number 2, right? Go get the photo information using the info that I got back from number 1. And then all of its complexities are just siloed as well. So this ability to break things up into separate siloed tasks, super duper important. So you have got to be, if you're going to write an agent with any type of complexity, you're going to want to use child agents. So once again, future you will really thank you if you'll take a minute. Hey, if you haven't learned Copilot Studio, you in trouble, right? Like we got to get you there. But then once you learn it, start to be like, all right, how do I do agent calling, right? Because it's going to let you build things that weren't possible, and it's going to make it a lot easier. So that's why I wanted to make sure this was the last piece of this, helping future you. So there you go. That's my story for today. It got a little bit longer than I wanted, but I feel really passionate about this. Like I'm going to make all my teammates watch this. I'm going to make all my friends watch this. I'm going to make my mom watch this. Maybe not mom, but you get the idea. I feel like we got to embrace this stuff and start to stop finding the bad reasons not to use AI, find the good, go play with it so we are more equipped for the future. If I can help you with any of that, right? I've got training classes on all this AI stuff. I've got mentoring services. We're doing AI projects for people. We're doing AI private trainings. We are here at PowerApps 911 to help you. And we just feel so passionate about this as well. We just put up www.copilot911.com. That's right. We have a whole separate little face there for all of our Copilot-y stuff coming out. And what about you? Do you have thoughts, questions, comments? Leave them below. Like, what are you doing to help future you? I would love to hear about it, right? I want to hear about it. The other viewers want to hear about it. So leave those comments below. All right. And with that, I'm going to say thanks and have a great day.